Right. Let's get straight into it. Virat Kohli. He's called time on his Test cricket career. 14 years. Just like that. Before the England tour.
Yeah, it feels like a pretty big moment, doesn't it?
Huge. Especially with Rohit Sharma also stepping away from Tests recently. It's a massive shift for Indian cricket. Really feels like a changing of the guard.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about two absolute pillars of the team. Their absence, well, it's going to leave a significant void. Kohli, especially, his mark is just undeniable.
Such a long journey in Tests. So this deep dive, we really want to try and understand, what led to this decision now and what's the legacy he leaves behind.
Exactly. There's a lot to unpack there.
So what do you think kicked this off? I mean, Kohli himself said, the journey tested him, shaped him. He talked about how personal Test cricket was for him.
Yeah, he did. Very personal.
But looking closer, seems like there might be a few things going on, like the desire for more family time. That's been mentioned, hasn't it?
That's totally understandable, isn't it? For any top athlete. The travel, the pressure, it's immense. Like,
Yeah.
as careers go on, yeah, personal priority shift, that's natural.
And then there's the mental side. He was pretty open about that, actually, feeling the strain after some maybe subpar Test performances by his standards. Said he felt the weight of external disappointment, even mentioned feeling desperate during that Australian series. That sounds, well, intense.
It really is. The level of expectation on someone like him, it's just enormous. Test cricket specifically, it's such a mental grind.
For sure.
So for him to talk about those pressures, it's quite significant, gives us a real window into maybe what he was feeling.
We should probably also touch on his Test form, say, since 2020. The average dipped down to around 30.
Yeah, which is, a real contrast to that incredible run he had from, was it 2016 to 2019?
Yeah.
Averaging nearly 67 then.
Just phenomenal.
Right. Even the last Border Gavaskar Trophy in Australia, 190 runs in 9 innings. Okay, he got that 100 in Perth, which was brilliant.
Sure.
But yeah, and no home Test century since 2023. It's a definite shift from the Kohli we saw at his absolute peak.
That peak period, though, 2016 to 19.
Wow. It was something else, averaging nearly 67 over that long. That puts you in very, very elite company.
So while maybe the recent form played a part, it doesn't really take away from those peak years, does it?
Not at all. It's the life cycle of an athlete. But for someone who set his own bar so incredibly high, yeah, it would have been on his mind, you'd think.
It's also kind of striking. He stopped just 770 runs short of 10,000 Test runs.
That milestone.
Yeah. And just before the new World Test Championship cycle kicks off, lots of people were surprised, I think, especially given how fit he is.
Definitely. His fitness is legendary.
And didn't a former coach mention he was really keen for this England tour? It almost feels like the decision was, I don't know, a bit sudden.
It does make you wonder about the timing. Especially with the fitness, like you said, and looking forward to England. Maybe suggests more personal factors. Or just a bigger picture view we're not totally privy to.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Let's talk about the legacy. As a batter first. The numbers are just, well, staggering. 900 and 230 runs, 123 matches, averaged just under 47, 30 centuries, 31 50s.
Yeah, those stats alone tell a huge story. It's a career most players dream of.
Absolutely.
But like you touched on before, it's those periods of sheer dominance that really stand out. That peak, October 2014 to March 2020. Incredible.
Over 5,300 runs then, average over 61, 2100s.
And only Steve Smith scored more runs in that whole period. That just shows you the level he was operating at. Consistency, big scores, the works.
And he wasn't just a flat track bully, was he? He seemed to thrive when things got tough.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking about those runs in South Africa, Joburg 13, those twin tons in Adelaide on his captaincy debut.
Unbelievable start as captain. The second captain ever to do that, I think.
And that Perth century in 2018 on a really green, fast pitch against a top Aussie attack, those weren't easy runs.
Exactly. Those innings really showed his class, his adaptability, his mental strength, scoring heavily in tough overseas conditions, especially for a batter from the subcontinent. That's the mark of greatness, isn't it?
Really is. Standing up to hostile bowling away from home, that's a huge part of his legacy.
Definitely.
And then there was that phase, 2016 to 2019, the Daddy Hundreds era, people call it.
Yeah. 7 double centuries.
7 in just a few years, most by any Indian. Joint 4th all time, I think.
Yep, and double tons in 4 series in a row at one point.
That consistency of converting hundreds into really massive scores, It's just mind-blowing. Shows incredible concentration.
It really does. A mental resilience, the stamina to bat for that long again and again, was a different level of focus during that phase.
Yeah.
That record, 4 doubles in successive series, that really sums up his dominance then.
And we can't forget England in 2018, right? After that really tough tour in 2014 where he struggled.
Oh, yeah. Massive turnaround.
Came back, scored nearly 600 runs, 593. That was a statement. Facing down Anderson, that battle was just epic to watch.
It really was. A pivotal tour for him personally. To conquer those English conditions against arguably their greatest ever bowler, it showed huge character, massive technical improvement, cemented him as an all-conditions great.
Okay, so clearly phenomenal batsman, one of the best. But then there's the captaincy.
Another huge part of the story.
India's most successful test captain. Simple as that. 40 wins in 68 matches.
Incredible record. Only Graeme Smith, Ponting, Steve Waugh have won more tests as captain.
And his win percentage, nearly 59%. That's right up there, too. The numbers are just emphatic.
They really are. 40 wins is remarkable. And that win percentage, it reflects that constant push for results, that belief he instilled that they could win anywhere. That's a massive part of his captaincy legacy.
And it wasn't just the wins. He scored heaps of runs while captaining, too. Nearly 5,900 runs. 20 centuries as captain.
Only Graeme Smith has more tons as skipper. That's leading from the front, isn't it? Both with the bat and tactically.
Absolutely. He set the example. His own performances were exceptional while leading.
Crucial for a captain.
He was known for that really aggressive mindset, too, always aiming for the win, even if it meant risking a loss sometimes. That felt like a real shift for India in tests, didn't it?
It absolutely was. He fostered this culture of, always striving for the victory. Go for it.
Yeah.
That bold approach. Okay, sometimes it might not come off, but ultimately it made the team fearless, made them much harder opponents, especially away from home.
And maybe one of his biggest impacts as captain, spearheading that fast bowling revolution.
Oh, huge.
Transformative.
He seemed to really get that you needed top-class pace bowlers to win consistently, home and away. And he backed them. Think of Ishant, Umesh, Shami, and then Bumrah emerging.
That is a legacy that will last for years. Historically, India leans so heavily on spin. Kohli's vision, his backing of the quicks, it completely changed the balance of the attack.
Gave them teeth everywhere.
Exactly. A potent pace attack that could win matches anywhere. That was a genuine game changer for Indian cricket. And tied into that, his emphasis on fitness. It wasn't just personal, it changed the whole culture.
Right, completely. Those strict fitness markers, the yo-yo test becoming policy. That was driven by Kohli, the coach, the trainers.
And he walked the talk himself, setting incredibly high standards. You hear those stories about his training? Almost mythical.
His commitment just sort of radiated outwards. It lifted the bar for everyone, made the team fitter, stronger, more professional. It became like fundamental, non-negotiable if you wanted to play for India under him.
And you saw the results on the field. Those historic overseas wins under him. That first ever series win in Australia, 2018-19, that's the big one.
Monumental achievement.
But also series wins in Sri Lanka, West Indies after long gaps. Those were huge milestones, too.
Definitely. Those away wins, especially beating Australia in Australia, they just showed India's growing strength, their resilience under Kohli, broke down barriers, and instilled that belief they could beat anyone, anywhere.
And let's not forget, India were #1 in the ICC test rankings for 5 years straight under him.
5 consecutive years. That's sustained excellence.
And they reached the first World Test Championship final. Didn't win it, but getting there.
Right. That consistency at the top, reaching the WTC final, it all speaks volumes about his leadership and the team's performance during his tenure.
His style, too. Those aggressive declarations, attacking field settings. It made for exciting viewing, didn't it?
Definitely. Always felt like something could happen.
You felt he was always proactive, trying to make things happen rather than waiting.
Yeah, injected a lot of energy and excitement into their test matches. He wasn't afraid to take risks to push for a win. Made for compelling cricket, often got results.
So, beyond the stats, beyond the wins, people credit him with making test cricket cool again. Especially with T20 booming. That's quite an impact on the format itself, isn't it?
It really is. In this era where shorter formats grab so much attention, Kohli's, his sheer passion for tests, his intensity, his commitment, it genuinely helped keep the format relevant and exciting, especially for younger fans in India.
He brought this incredible energy. You could see it in his play, the fitness, the leadership. You just knew Test cricket mattered deeply to him.
Absolutely. And that passion was infectious. You felt it rubbed off on his teammates, on the fans
It
watching.
really was undeniable. His celebrations, how he engaged with the crowd, the way he talked about the format, it felt authentic, that love for the game's purest form.
Yeah, you couldn't doubt it.
And his on-field presence, the intensity, sometimes the theatrics, he was just captivating, wasn't he? Made him must-watch TV, even in a 5-day game.
He definitely brought a dynamism, a personality to the test arena that was impossible to ignore. That fierce competitiveness added drama, added excitement.
We've heard some interesting quotes and perspectives, too. Kohli himself saying, "You have to risk losing to win test matches." That sums up his captaincy philosophy pretty well.
It really does. Captures that aggressive, positive approach perfectly.
And he also stressed mental strength being the absolute top priority, even above fitness or technical skill, he said.
That's fascinating, isn't it? Highlights the huge mental demands of Test cricket and his belief in, well, the power of the mind, having that winning mentality.
And teammates, experts, they always talk about his drive, his self-belief, the incredibly high standards he set. You get a real sense of the respect he commanded.
Yeah, the way players talk about him, the respect is immense. Speaks volumes about his impact as a player, sure, but also as a leader. He pushed everyone to be better.
There's also, understandably, a lot of talk about the leadership gap now, with him and Rohit Sharma both gone from the test setup.
It's a big one.
That's a huge amount of experience walking out the door at roughly the same time. It's bound to be a challenge.
It absolutely marks a major transition phase for India. Filling that void, finding the next leaders. That's going to be crucial for the team management going forward.
Ashwin had that great line, didn't he? Describing Kohli as fire and Rohit as ice. Contrasting styles, but they complemented each other.
Yeah, that was a brilliant analogy. Really captures their different approaches and how together they contributed to the team's balance and success.
And Dinesh Karthik, he made the point that Kohli really changed how Test cricket is looked at, how it's valued, brought that aggression, that intensity, made it cool again.
That's high praise and probably fair. He showed Test cricket could be played with this high-octane energy, and that definitely resonated, kept the format appealing in a changing world.
Karthik also had an interesting thought about the younger batters now. With Kohli gone, the spotlight, maybe it gets spread around more.
That's a really sharp point.
Kohli drew so much attention, good or bad. Maybe now there's more scrutiny, more pressure on the next generation stepping up.
I think that's very likely. The responsibility naturally shifts. They'll have to shoulder more of the burden, face more observation as they try to establish themselves without that huge figure alongside them.
So, wrapping this deep dive up, it's just undeniable, isn't it? Virat Kohli's impact on Test cricket. As a batter, as a captain, it's been immense, far-reaching.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He leaves an incredible legacy. The batting records, the transformative captaincy, that winning culture, the fitness revolution, the pace attack.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable list of achievements.
It really does feel like the end of a massive transformative era for Indian cricket. His influence, it's going to be felt for a long, long time.
For sure. His time will be remembered not just for the wins and the runs, but for how he fundamentally reshaped what it meant to be an Indian Test cricketer on the world stage.
So the final thought to leave you with is this. How does Indian cricket adapt now? How do they fill that leadership void and build on this incredible legacy of Test excellence that Virat Kohli was so central in creating? It's certainly going to be fascinating to watch.